Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do along with special guests are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We have a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, but if there's anybody on the call that would like to ask any questions, please feel free to flag yourself in the chat and we will be monitoring that. Like every week, with me today is Joe Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Morning, Joe. How you doing?
Hello, Michael. Good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. I always mess up the intro. There's always something. Please, would you introduce our guest today?
Yeah, actually, I also just wanted to say hello to our attendees for coming, Zane, Valdile, Simona, Neil, Irene, Dagan, Samantha, and Chris, and a few others that are joining us as they log in today. Please, in the chat where you're dialing in from, because I think today we'll have a quite international SEO office hours. And before introducing our speakers, I'd like to say a big thank you to our special guests last week, Chris McCain and Monsi Cano, for joining us. Chris has been coming to office hours nearly since the beginning, and Monsi's been a regular at Search London. And I'm based here in Barcelona, and I run a digital consultancy, marketing consulting business called Turn Global, and I run two events, Search London and Search Barcelona. And I'm really pleased today to have our two special guests, Arnoldo and Isaac, joining us. Arnoldo's actually working at IKEA, and we met at International Search Summit in Barcelona last year. He's a trilingual, Spanish, English, and Swedish, and he's got a lot of experience working in B2C and B2B. And he's actually going to be speaking at Recommerce in March 2024, so just in a couple of months' time in central London. And Isaac, I'm really pleased to have Isaac here. He is the content team lead at Wise in the SEO team. He's worked in the Tallinn and Budapest office, and now he's in Barcelona. He's spoken at Search Barcelona, and he was also at International Search Summit, and he will be speaking at an event called SEO Vibes in Barcelona in April, exact date to be confirmed. So I'll share their LinkedIn profiles in the chat. Really pleased to have two of my favorite brands here, IKEA and Wise. If you want to find out more about both of those brands, please message Arnoldo and Isaac. And if you do have any questions, as Mike said, please write them in the chat. I'll be monitoring, and I'll pass over to Mike now.
Great. So Isaac, insider's thoughts on Search Barcelona. How'd it go?
It went really well, actually. Thank you for asking. It was actually the first time that I had ever spoke like in an event. It was actually really cool. I had done like things for the company, right? Like internal conferences, but never speaking with a bigger SEO audience. And it was really good. Got a lot of good feedback. So very happy. So happy that Joe gave me the opportunity to show what I do and what we do at Wise also.
Yeah. And what did you speak on, just out of interest?
Yeah, I was speaking about basically a different idea of how to find content, right? Like that will rank in Google and will perform well. Yeah, right. I was giving some things that were a bit maybe more general, like everybody knows, and some others a bit more specific. So hopefully there was a bit of everything for everyone.
Good, awesome. The first question we've got is a regular one, which is just what everybody's been working on this week. So Joe, do you want to start?
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, what I've been working on this week actually is there's been two new conferences that went live this week, and Turn Global, my company, is the sponsor. One is International Social Summit, which is taking place in Barcelona on May the 16th. And another one is called Search African, which is taking place on May the 17th this year. And I'm really excited to have these both go live, especially Search African, as we've had one of our attendees, Ebera Jonathan. She's actually organizing the event and just going to have a lot of speakers. It's going to be the first Search African that she's actually organized. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'll share the links in the chat as well.
Great. And Arnaldo, what have you been working on this week?
A few things specifically for IKEA.com. Just came out from that stand-up meeting, and we were discussing about the redirects engines that we are building up.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Isaac, anything interesting this week you've been working on?
Yeah, it's been like a very hectic week, to be honest, because I'm based in Barcelona, but I'm right now in Budapest office, and we were doing some retro of 2023, and I've been mostly like working also like this week on we're gathering some data like that things that have worked in certain markets in SEO, and we want to pass that information to other marketing channels, so they actually would prioritize certain markets that are working very well for us. So trying to see how to convince other marketing channels to put some money in some new markets.
Nice, cool. Okay. I've just been pulled around the place. I've been doing a mixture of technical stuff, link building, and we also gave our newsletter a bit of a redesign and facelift and so on. So being busy with those things. Okay, first question. Given the recent success with organic traffic seen in forums like Reddit, how can we leverage user-generated content for SEO benefits? As I suppose this question has two potential avenues. One is basically the actual participating in those forums. And I guess the other part of the question is how can you replicate these successes on your site? Arnoldo, would you be okay starting with this one?
Yeah, we definitely keep monitoring what's going on out there in terms of user-generated content. We have the traditional rating and reviews, which we use for both indexing, but also get some insights. And lately, we are pushing a special attention to all these Q&A sites, and we're trying to fill in the gap because historically IKEA has been behind that. But we are catching up for us. Long tail queries for specific questions, not only for knowledge, but also, for example, local SEO, hyperlocal queries is quite important. Yes, it's good to try to fill in that gap.
And what about, so once somebody buys and puts up furniture, do you have anything in terms of whether it's through images or anything like that, where you can see what that looks like in people's homes and things like that? Do you have anything like that on the site?
Yes, I think right now there's actually a pilot back in 2008 and 20, I think IKEA acquired Geomagical Labs, startup in California. They are trying, I think the product's called Magic Window, where you scan the room and then you can basically visualize IKEA products. IKEA was quite early in the 3D world many years back, so we have all the catalog models basically. So that was a good planning.
Cool. IKEA is one website that I always watch personally because you just seem to rank so well everywhere, all over the world, like your category pages and things like that. So it's always one that I'm like, I'm always trying to work out, dissect almost. What are you doing? What are you doing so differently? Yeah, that's why I was asking about that. Zach, what about you? Do you have anything to add to that question?
I could add, yes, I think we underestimate sometimes some of these pages like Reddit, Quora, whatever. And we've been trying like in the past, like looking for what some of our audience could be asking like around. Also, like it is true that maybe our product, when we write in blog, we do finance and expat content, right? There is a lot of queries that we can answer there. There's a lot of topics we can cover. And something that we tried, I think it was last year, we're checking some questions especially on the Argentinian market, it became like a bit difficult, like how to navigate there and so on. And then you discover how people are using your product. You discover what questions people are asking about your product, and then you can utilize those for your own content. And to be very honest, things initially they don't have any search volume. Then you use them, and then you start ranking really well for them, and you start getting a lot of traffic from them as well. So I would say definitely you need to keep an eye what they are talking about you, what question they are asking about you, and also if they're on the topics that you usually like cover, what are also they discussing and what can you use to squeeze the profit out of it.
Yeah, awesome. Joe, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to add that we shouldn't underestimate, as Isaac said, it's really good way of finding out what people are talking about in the industry about your product and service. And I'd also look at other things such as Google Trends and find out what's happening there.
Yeah, I am. So personally, I love participating in forums and trying to answer people's questions, not from say like a link building perspective, but just trying to be helpful and answer people's questions. But in terms of the like, how can you replicate what forums are doing? with some of the companies we work with, we try and find ways of applying what our customers are talking about on things like, it might be if it's a travel company, a location page, or it might be if it's a beauty website, it might be on the specific product pages, whether it's actually photos of what that product looks like on that person, or just actually their feedback and so on, just to enrich all of those pages and so on. And actually, I think that is way more helpful sometimes than the product description and specs and all of that stuff, actually seeing what people think after using it for a couple of weeks and so on. I think this is a real missed opportunity on some travel websites in particular. So a lot of them tend to get feedback from users at the point of sale, as opposed to once they've been to that location and actually building a relationship with the customer when they're there, and actually when they're in that moment finding out about what are the best things to do in that area and what have they been doing and so on. There's very few that I think do that really well, and I think that's the way of taking that user generated content and just enriching the whole site. Cool.
Yeah. And just wanted to say as well, I had a nice comment in the chat here. Wise is a great blog, answering main questions in companies and comparing different payment methods. Talking from my own experience as a customer, I love the Wise blog as well. Loads of stuff. So
Cool.
keep doing that.
Okay, next question. So I've been in the SEO industry since 2019 and have extensive experience in ranking websites. However, I'm facing a challenge with one of my websites, and Joe is just about to publish the question in the chat that actually has the URL and the keyword. I'm not sure if we have permission to actually say it live on YouTube, so we'll just leave it in the chat for now, unless the person that's answered the question wants to. So we've shared the website in the chat, and so to continue the question, while it is SEO optimized and indexed on Google, the homepage is not ranking for my desired keyword, which is also in the chat. Despite being optimized for it, this issue has been persistent for over a year. This page is indexed and ranks for some keywords, but not this specific one. What could be the reason for this, and how can I address it? Sorry, it took ages to read that. So basically, we've got a website. It ranks for terms. It's indexed. It ranks, but the homepage, despite being optimized for a particular term, a particular keyword, doesn't seem to rank for it. And then this person shared the URL with us. I shared it with Isaac, Arnoldo, and Joe beforehand, and we've all had a quick look. Has anybody taken a look? Who wants to kick off? Isaac, would you like to kick off? What are your thoughts? Why doesn't it rank for that particular keyword?
When I was looking at the website, actually, I tried to look at the website from two different perspectives, from an SEO and from a more like a user experience perspective, right? And something related to the SEO, the first thing that I saw is the keyword they are trying to rank for at the moment is also like the brand of another competitor, what I saw, right? There is a competitor that has that exact name, and their domain is basically that, right? So I think it's a bit complicated to rank for that keyword. You will see also that the keyword difficulty looks a little bit difficult. And then the big question here is that keyword, is the user intent only navigational, or is also informational or commercial? So I would say like maybe there is a lot of people who really use that keyword trying to do that other competitor information to website. So that could be not ideal to try to target that keyword, because we will never outrank someone who has those words in the domain. And then also what I thought from the SEO perspective is maybe they could go and target like other niche keywords, maybe try to figure out what is the journey of the user, right? So if someone wants to purchase this, it was like a travel package, right? So if someone wants to purchase that travel package, what is the journey of that person before wanting to do that package? Can you answer questions before that? Can you really be out there for all your readers? And then can you then later, little by little, funnel them? Can you target keywords that have lower keyword difficulty and maybe lower search volume, but you would create higher impact doing that and enriching your website with better content than just trying to go for the big one already on the homepage. And then from the user experience, what I would say is that there were few things, like at the very beginning of the company, something that I noticed is that the domain and the name of the company they were different. So as a user, as a reader, I would be a bit confused. Okay, who's the brand? This one, the other, right? So that's the first thing that I thought. Then maybe the choose one or the other. What is gonna be the brand, right? But try to stick to that one, to make it more clear. Then I also saw that the homepage and the first landing page, they lead to the same place, to the homepage. So maybe you want to create something different. Perhaps the homepage, what I would do is to have a bit more information on the company itself, also who they are, how many years have they been there. Can you add like reviews of your previous customers? Also, like with the previous customers that you had, can you understand who they are, where they're coming from usually? Can you target that website? Can you make it a bit more friendly to that type of customer? I don't know. I'm just thinking about, this is some sort of travel agency, right? So I used a travel agency in another country once for something similar to the product. And they were specialized into Polish people. So everything was very specialized to Polish people. And they knew that was their niche and they did it very well. For some reason, I don't know why I went with them, because I'm not Polish and I don't speak Polish, but like a friend recommended me these people and I went to them. But I think it's interesting to understand your audience as well and to funnel your content, your website to that audience as well. And I'm not just finishing because otherwise I'll be talking for an hour. Sorry, guys.
Oh no, that was amazing. Arnoldo, do you have anything to add?
I think we got like quite a mini audit right on the spot. So
Sorry.
I was doing like a quick check on Majestic, SEO, backlinks, but it's more about the user experience. That's what I see. The actual site that ranks for that keyword actually has a better user experience with more content around the actual experience. And this one that you're sharing, for example, the currency, the prices are in the local currency. I have no idea. For me, it will help to show in Swedish crowns or USD, right? It's a lot about the user experience.
Thank you. I'd also like to just say that we should probably emphasize more the EAT. So on the About Us page, there isn't really anybody behind that. So it would be really important to actually put that on the page. And also with the blog, build up that content. Some of the blog posts are quite short. It doesn't have a date, although when you look at the blog section, they all look like on the overview the same date. And you can interlink back to the individual pages. And the third thing is I would look and see not just what you're not ranking for, but what are you ranking for? Use your Google Search Console and see where you can make a few changes and then increase the rankings for those terms. And maybe, as Isaac has said, it's very competitive, that term. So look at the longer tail term. I also have a couple of comments in the chat as well. So Chris has mentioned to focusing in on the audience. It will also help voice search through the phases and languages. Dragon was talking about, there was a small technical tip to meta descriptions in the head tag of the website. And another guest was talking about, that keyword that you want to rank for. It's very competitive. So it would be important to generate additional content around that topic. And also to keep in mind, selling tickets is not just a sole factor for ranking the website. Look at the interlinking, and the page authority will also play a significant role too.
Great. I had a quick look as well, and one of the things that I looked at was what else is ranking. So outside of the competitor that has the exact keyword as their domain, the other websites that seem to rank are things like TripAdvisor and Viator and so on, which are basically ideas websites. And that makes me think that the keyword itself, when somebody's typing that in, they're actually looking for a range of ideas. And although you've got a couple of ideas on the site, compared to Viator and TripAdvisor, that there's only a couple of packages. So it could be that from an audience perspective, actually the page also doesn't quite answer the query like those other sites, and that maybe it's also a product development challenge that if you really, sometimes I think we get obsessed with one of many keywords, but if it was me and I was working on this, I'd also be looking at our products and see, okay, if somebody's looking for that particular keyword in that location. Sorry, this is really annoying for anyone on YouTube that can't see the keyword or the domain. But basically, let's say it's the equivalent of something like golf trips in Barcelona. If you were looking for golf trips in Barcelona, you're probably looking for a range of courses, hotels, and so on. And so if that was me, I would make sure that I fully answer that. And then also referring to what we were looking at in the last question, things like user generated. Thanks. Great. Okay, we'll jump on to the next question.
Yeah, and just while you're getting the question, just another comment about video content. So perhaps if you have some videos of the event that you're, or the trip that you're organizing and you're promoting, include that as well.
Yeah, because I imagine with a keyword like this, actually video content would be really amazing to show the audience what they'd actually be getting for their money.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. How do you get along with GA4? I was discussing this with a friend who works for an agency. He mentioned that most of his clients find it a pain in the backside, and suggested setting up SnowPlow. Joe, you're going to put this in there so people can check out what that is, right? I'm skeptical because I hardly have time to learn GA4, and adding another tool seems like it could be another headache. I'm curious to know if your clients are having similar issues about GA4, and also, have you used SnowPlow before, or would you consider using it? Arnoldo, how do you fancy starting with this one? Is that all right?
I think that there are two tracks here, right? One is the actual learning curve on getting the new interface in GA4 compared with Versal Analytics. So the user perspective and the learning curve on generating report. It's important to say that GA4 is not a finished product, right? Especially when they launch. Now they've been coming with more and more features. But then there are other options, right? And in terms of comparing with SnowPlow, SnowPlow is a different kind of a product. I think they have a community edition, which is open source, I believe, and then the enterprise. And it's basically a first-party data behavior analytics platform. I've seen a couple of demos. The user interface there it's relative easy, but then there are more pros to consider, like a Pay with Pro, for example, and other options. And then this kind of question has been becoming more relevant in Europe because the cookie consent and how we collect the user data and privacy concerns. But then all in all, I will recommend to stick to GA4, depending what is your user base inside the company. Yeah, keep patient because it's a product that is evolving. Rather switch. Personally, we are maintaining 3 different versions of this. We still have Universal 4, and we have our own in-house tool that is it has no user interface, right? All the data basically sits on BigQuery. So it depends what your user base and knowledge is actually.
Isaac or Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, just focus on like the budget. So that comes to time and resources. So if you don't have a lot of time to look at different platforms and your budget financial doesn't allow you to do that, then focus on one. And I would say you could choose GA4, just make sure that you get a basic understanding of it. I don't think you need to know everything about it, but attend different events about GA4, connect with people in the industry that are experts in GA4. Just a little plug here, Search London is doing a GA4 session on Tuesday. For those that want to attend, I'll share the link, but don't get overwhelmed by all the different platforms. You just need to find out which one works for you and stick to it, because in our industry, things change and update all the time. Over to you, Isaac.
Yeah, no, I think that what you just said just made a lot of sense. If that person is dealing with clients, right? So they want to stick always to the same thing, it will be easier, it will be faster for them to create reports, right? Maybe what I would suggest is, I think in GA4, but also like Looker Data Studio, it's really good. We've been using Looker at Wise even before it was part of Google. I think it's works really well. Once you understand how analytics work a bit, measurement, dimensions, filters, you can build things very quickly. And what I would encourage people maybe to ease their life is just to build dashboards. Build a dashboard that always has the top metrics that you want to see and that you want to present to your customer, and then replicate the dashboard for all the customers, right? So maybe that would ease the thing. And if one day they want something more specific, then you can spend a bit more time, but otherwise just try to stick to what it works and build dashboards that are very easy to show to your clients.
Great. I think Chris is going to share a tech stock, actually. He said he'd made a list a while ago. Just thinking about this question, I think one thing to be really careful of is not have tool overload. I think I make this mistake all the time, but then I do SEO day in and day out. And if this person isn't an SEO and a business owner, and it sounds like they don't have the time to do that, then I think it might be just pausing and basically trying to work out what questions you need to answer, what do you need data on, and then making sure that you're collecting that data in GA4. And if you can't answer the questions in GA4, then maybe look for an alternative. I think it's really easy for somebody like myself who works in an agency to basically say, we're using this or we're using that, but then we do this day in and day out. And I would just be really careful that you don't end up signing up to another tool and then be in a worse position. So yeah, personally, I would basically take a step back and go, what questions does this business need answers to? And I think one of the benefits of something like GA4 is if you're having a problem, chances are somebody else has had that problem too. And there will be answers on YouTube, on forums and so on. So it's pretty easy to find the answers to those. I'm sure other analytics tools have those answers as well, but because so many people are using GA4, I often think in this case, if you don't have that much time, I personally would try and get it right in one tool first. Great. Joe, did we have any other?
Yeah, we did actually. Chris, you shared loads. Thank you very much. So he just shared a text file, a list of all different analytics tools. So please download that. And thanks so much, Chris, for sharing it. It's like over 20 different tools that he's shared. It's including Adobe Analytics, Wix Analytics, lots of different ones. So thank you very much, Chris.
Wait, Chris, if you give us a thumbs up whether we're allowed to put that in the YouTube description.
Oh yeah.
If obviously we won't, if not. Okay, next question. I have a question regarding the differences in creating content for commercial intent as opposed to informational intent. What are your thoughts on this? Zach, would you be okay starting with this?
Yeah, I think I can go. I think, first of all, I would make sure that you understand that we understand the user intent of the keyword is really like a commercial or informational, right? Just to understand what the user is expecting to see. And I think one of the biggest difference always will be like in commercial, you can be a bit more hardcore with your CTAs, with call to actions. You can go more direct. While in informational, maybe you want to seduce more the user, let's say, and to funnel it better. So what I would say for informational, for example, like how can we talk a bit more what we're doing, some other, maybe some aspects of what would they not choose you? Like these people are new, I've never read about them. Are they secure? Are they like good? Maybe you want to spend a bit more time there. Maybe you want to, instead of sending them to your register page, you want to send them to another blog post or another, like what explains what do you do, how secure you are, like stuff like that. So I would just funnel this better. And yeah, like on the conversion, I would just go a bit more all the way in.
Great. Arnoldo, what about yourself?
I think that's a really good question. I think my real life experience working in-house for a brand is always, this is a really good question and dilemma when you are facing the content creation teams where they are trying to protect the brand voice and the tone of voice and guidelines versus a really hungry SEO team that wants to capture all commercial traffic, right? So yes, back to Isaac, yeah, commercial is for us is more like a blunt approach to call to action, right? Whether informational, it's more, yeah, kind to the user. But that's our experience. There's always a layer in between how aggressive you are when producing the content. You need to respect it. Depends the vertical or the industry you are in, right? But that's always a hot topic when you are producing content briefs or having meetings to review content with copywriters.
Great. Joe?
Actually, I'd like to share If you don't mind, Chris, what you shared in chat, it's very good. A good way to get both. He was saying about an advertorial, so tutorial style information content, and then a soft pre-sell for commercial. So this is how you do it, or click here and how we can help. I do quite like also how HubSpot does some of their pages. They have a lot of content about how to create whatever, do your email marketing, or how to create the best landing page. And then actually within there, they have a click here to download your own template or to download the guide. That's in their version of commercial. So I think we need to think about what is commercial for that brand. It might be a download for the conversion, or it might be actually clicking to buy something. And of course, if it's a product that's quite expensive, it may take a lot longer for them to actually click and purchase that product. I also wanted to give a shout out to those that are watching us on YouTube. If you are enjoying SEO Office Hours, click a like on the button and sign up to the Good Signals YouTube channel, but also sign up to goodsignals.com/SEO-office hours. And then you can actually join us live every Friday at 9:30 a.m. GMT.
Great. Thank you, Joe. You're so good. I'm really bad at doing You're very good at doing that. I guess the only thing I would add to that is with commercial stuff, commercial terms, I don't think there's any harm in helping educate the person who's looking at buying something. And I think you can be very clever these days with formatting and layout, for example, where you can provide information without it being just a massive block of content. And there are obviously different ways to provide information. I think on the other side, informational content where you've got buy here, not answering the user's search query is personally a big no for me. So I think it works one way round, but not the other. And I tend to we monitor the search results for really competitive terms, and anything such as any kind of January sales or Black Friday sales or really competitive terms like, I don't know, sofas and beds. But one thing I notice on the pages that rank and do really well is actually even on category pages, they've got lots of content, but they're really smart about the way they lay it out. And they link off to guides and they share different products and videos and all of that stuff. Great. Okay, let's go for the next one.
Yeah, while you're getting that, actually, we've got a few comments in the chat. Chris also mentioned about good information and helps to gain trust. And Dragon was talking about usage in SEO in affiliate marketing it's based on informational content. Sorry, everything starts with the user's question. You should write a lot of content around that. And then you can also go into more of the e-commerce or the commercial keywords.
Great.
So that's it.
Okay, next question is, with the increasing emphasis on user experience and search ranking factors, how can we use core web vitals and other performance metrics to enhance website rankings? Are there specific tools recommended for optimizing site speed and user experience? Sorry, I write these questions out and it's just my handwriting. It's not the person that submitted the question, so apologies about that. But thankfully, Joe also puts them in the chat. So hopefully that made sense. So user experience, how can we take the info from core web vitals and other performance metrics to enhance our rankings? And are there any particular tools that you're using to help with site speed and user experience? Who would like to kick off? Nobody? Joe,
I can just mention a couple of things. Yeah, I would actually use the GT metrics just to find out the site speed. If you can try and find the pattern of maybe why your site is slow, it could be some unused JavaScript, or maybe some of the CSS is too heavy, and then maybe you can try and amend that in the back, and it could be down to a particular template. If you change one template, it could affect the others. Another one is plugins as well. Maybe too many can slow down the site. I would use GT metrics. I'd also use, I believe Screaming Frog can also get the site speed. You can measure that too. And also in terms of overall user experience, I would actually use Hotjar. So you can see where people are clicking on the site if they're scrolling down. But saying that actually GA4 does now have their event of scroll down. So you can see how far people are scrolling down the page. So that will give you an idea really of how people are interacting with your site.
Great.
Oh, and Chris has said, sorry, just mentioned, Chris has said page performance indicators. Yeah, use Google PCI and look at the opportunities in diagnostics. Thank you, Chris.
I think one thing I like to do when I'm working on a a website for the first time is if it's a new CMS to me, for example, is just do a ton of research in terms of that particular CMS and see what issues other people are having and how they fix them. And also usually with different platforms, there are, like Joe said, there are plugins or applications. It depends on the CMS you're using, but I do a ton of research on those as well. And especially looking through things like reviews from other users of those to see impact they've had. I'm a little bit wary of just going off of the first couple of search results, which is ironic because we're SEOs, when you have best plugins for Craft CMS, for example, or whatever. But I might read the sort of top 20 articles or something on that and just try and get an idea of what keeps coming up. And then I'll do a load of deep research. So that's a CMS level. I also think it is worth just I know it's really good to have these tools as indicators and look at those performance metrics, but I also think it's good to actually look at what devices are really popular and actually go and look at the site and popular pathways and stuff on those devices, more from a user perspective than say an SEO one, but I think that it goes hand in hand. Isaac or Arnoldo, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, there are two approaches, right? If you're in a small business, of course, you can use all this crawl. Lumar, we use Lumar, for example, for kind of enterprise weekly crawl per country and so on. It's not only the tool, right? It's the approach. For example, we have more than 20 teams deploying constantly to the front end. So it's a lot of training as well, not only from a technical perspective, but also for the content teams. You will not improve if there is someone out there pushing a file of 20, or I think the record is 1 gigabyte video or something like that. 500 megabytes image. Like, this is crazy things going on out there. So it's a combination between tools and training for development.
Great. And Isaac, do you have anything to add?
I don't have really like that much to add. Like, guys, I think you summarized it pretty well, and it's never been like my field of expertise anyway. So I think you guys will do it much better. I've used the Hotjar, and we've been using Hotjar in the past. Definitely just always really useful to understand how your audience, your readers, are navigating through your pages and what they are clicking on, how far they are going, and stuff like that. And I didn't know about the GA4 that they were actually doing this like that. That as well. Very interesting. I didn't know. Worth checking.
And actually, before we move on to another question, we have got one more question from the chat, not related to what we've been talking about, Mike. So if we have time to do that, would be great.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to add with the last question, just around just emphasizing a little bit more on the not getting caught up too much in specific numbers on tools, particularly the likes of PageSpeed Insights and all of those. I think that I get quite a lot of people saying, oh, it's so annoying. We're at 90, 96 and we're 100, and that's not going to move the needle. And I think sometimes we've dropped to 2. So just I think you could be better off spending that time on content. But the other side of that, once you do improve things like your page speeds and so on, technology is always changing and those goalposts are always changing. So it is worth going back to it on a regular basis just to keep an eye on how your site's doing. Joe, should we go with the one in the chat?
Yeah, this is more of a technical SEO question. It's really about how to extract 404 errors from Google Search Console via BigQuery or any other way, so he can pull or she can pull in the data and apply redirects, because Google Search Console, I believe it is a limit to 1000. He tried or she tried the Google Search Console API, but it only allows them to extract performance data. Basically, this website has millions of pages and there were some indexing errors. Why is this happening? So if anyone knows, and also please.
I can just spontaneously advise. It's a million of pages mentioned.
He's working. This person is working on a big website with millions of pages, and there's indexing errors in the website, and it's getting the same issues reflected in the Google Search Console pages section. So
yeah, I think the best approach is just to go direct to the web server logs and from there pick up all the 404s.
Okay, the website logs.
Yes, because of course Search Console is just limited. So I will go for that, and then of course if it has a solution crawling millions of pages, if it has a crawler that is doing that, you can pick it up from the crawlers, but the server logs is it should be the source of truth for all the response codes.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll do server logs. It looks like the developer removed quite a few pages and it caused an issue. Okay, server logs, and I would say, of course, you could use other tools such as you mentioned Lumar as well, right? So that could potentially help.
Yes, some people deploy even a Screaming Frog on the cloud, right? So
Okay. Well, yes, that's correct. Thank you.
And Chris has just mentioned, as you remove URLs, Google will keep releasing more. So as you fix the issues that you're currently seeing, you'll get others. Great. Okay. Next question. Sorry, we're running out of time. So I'll go for this as the last sort of new question, and then we'll go for the regular one. Gosh, sorry, I'm trying to get, just making sure we get ones that are a priority. Okay, so featured snippets have become a prominent feature in the search results. What strategy do you recommend for optimizing content to increase the chances of being featured in snippets? Are there any recent developments or changes in the search algorithm that impact the approach and featured snippet optimization? So is featured snippets something that's important to either IKEA or Wise?
I think for us it is because, okay, I think we all will agree that we don't like feature snippets as SEOs, right? Because they are basically like just pushing our website like the lowest like possible. You have to scroll a lot to find your website. But I think like the positive of using them is if these things are gonna be there, make sure that you then are the answer of one of those questions, or you're gonna be featured on top or something like that, or your video is gonna be there. So definitely to people who believe like they should not be targeting snippets, I would say, yeah, we should like really all try to target snippets. I think there are like some really good guides. If you use one of those big like keyword tools that we all know, I think they have really good guides on how to really very quickly withdraw a lot of snippet opportunities. We tried in the past. It worked usually pretty well. I would say, for example, something that it works well for us is when you see that, especially with the questions snippets, the feature questions, just use them, if not literally like the same way that they are written, very similarly, and just try to answer very straight right after the question, and use it like dot question as a subheading, like a subheading 2, for example, in your blog post. Something like that would work pretty well, or for us has worked pretty well in the past.
Arnoldo, is this something that's important to IKEA?
yes, it is. But to be honest, we actively not work on that. We're not actively pursuing that. I think our approach is to have always the basics when it comes to our data, right? And then it's up to the search engines to actually come up with that. For affiliates, for different industries, is highly important. From the brand perspective, it is important because we have a huge gap to cover and rescue back to our traffic. But we put emphasis on how is it that we structure our data, especially going where we are going or we are moving as an industry, right? With all this AI focus, there will be more and more, there will become more important to have your data in a structured way so search engines can basically expose your content. And this is about that, right? And I have a special opinion when it comes to Google and feature snippets. It's not a secret either that they will constantly change the way how they present that. It depends your resources, your time, your audience to focus on that. It's a constant landscape when it comes to the question around if it's any specific recent development in that area. I think Backlinko has a really good guide for feature snippets. I can share the links later on.
Great. I did
here in the chat.
I came across a really good article as well this week or last week. I was trying to find it then, but I can't, but I'll put it in the YouTube description afterwards. Joe, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add, but I just wanted to say thanks everyone to our speakers because we're running out of time. And thanks also for our guests for joining us today, because we have people dialing in from 8 different countries, the UK, where you are, we've got Spain, Hungary, Sweden, we have Indonesia, Greece. Macedonia, and India and Pakistan, actually 9 countries. Very international SEO office hours today. And thank you everyone for being so interactive and asking and answering questions in the chat.
So the very last question that we've got is just what you're excited about at the moment in terms of SEO. Joe, what are you excited about?
I'm actually really excited about what's happening on Sunday in Barcelona, because actually it's the first SEO FOMO event taking place in Barcelona. It's organized by a lady Solis. I'm really looking forward to that, and it's the first time, and I believe that she will be doing more of these in other cities around the world.
I love Aleda's newsletter. It's so helpful. Arnoldo, what about yourself? What are you excited about in terms of SEO at the moment?
All latest development when it comes to the search landscape, the new technology popping up, the new competitors, Rabbit R1, this AI device changing the landscape, Perplexity is a new AI challenging search. It works through an app. It's quite interesting to see the results, how they work with the SERPs. So you can give it a try. But in general, we are in a good point in the timeline to reinvent ourselves and keep up to date when it comes to what is coming, right? Because you always hear SEO is dead, but it's not. That's not the case. We're always in constant change.
Fantastic. And Isaac, what are you excited about at the moment in terms of SEO?
Well, the first thing, I have FOMO about the SEO FOMO because I didn't get a ticket. But someone messaged me and said maybe they got a spare ticket, so maybe I can make it in Barcelona on Sunday. That would be the first thing, yes. But I think all the AI generated content, it seems very fascinating. I like to see how the people are testing it. Here at Wise, we cannot test some of these things, and we should be very careful, right? It's a very interesting world. Where is this leading? But I've seen people using it to brainstorm ideas, to get maybe the startup for some keywords, or there are a few things maybe improve your brief, create a brief, something like that. And this is actually really cool. I don't think they will get our job. We still have, but I think we need to learn how to use it well and to get the maximum out of it, the maximum profit. So I'm very interested to see how this year will go. Also, I guess probably they will. I don't know if they release already ChatGPT, the new one or not, but it's gonna be interesting. How powerful is this year going to be ChatGPT in comparison with last year?
Yeah, I think same as everybody really. My favorite thing is just around all the developments and trying to keep up to date. And actually, I think if we worked in an industry that didn't move and it was everything we did every day would just be the same, none of us would be in a job because it'd be such an easy thing to do. I think it's really fascinating, and I think there's never been a better time to be an SEO. And I know lots of people are worried about AI and so on, but I think also there's never been a better time to be human with your content and add all of those other elements. Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us. Thank you to our special guests. Thank you, Joe, as well.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for always organizing this. I think we've all benefited a lot from all the answers from our special guests and from the audience. Thank you, everyone, again, for being so interactive in the chat, and to our special guests for today.
Great. I'll see you this time next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.